Yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'll tell you when we pass to Razan. Yes, Tariq. Bonjour. Super. Yes, I was, but maybe you, no, you're going to talk from there. Yes. So you don't need a headset. Okay, great. Okay. Wow. Uh, Hello, everybody. Very happy to have you all here for this important session. Why buildings? Buildings is nearly 40% of the emissions. You know that. Buildings, what you might not know is that buildings, I mean, real estate is between 50 and 60% of the global wealth, what for mitigation. We are going to have a very interesting session here with great panelists and mostly talking about the region. But before to start, I have a video from Razan Al-Mubarak, the climate champion, that she wanted to send us today.
Good afternoon and welcome. The building sector plays a pivotal role in shaping our future. The release last month of the technical report for the global stocktake marked a. Thirdly, our success hinges on the commitment of businesses, industries, and cities. Non-state actors are indispensable in both implementing the change and the transformation that is required from the sector. Lastly, collaboration is key. All stakeholders in the value chain must move together. Reflecting on this call to action, I am thrilled to introduce two pivotal initiatives being showcased today. The first is the Buildings Breakthrough. The Buildings Breakthrough initiative will see the collaboration of over 25 national governments to unlock near zero, realizing that now is the time e-developer and has joined the Race to Zero campaign, pledging to reduce emissions across scopes 1, 2, and notably scope 3. A coalition of industry frontrunners in the UAE is collaborating and is supported by the Emirates Green Building Council to share their blueprint for decarbonising the built environment. And DAR Group, Majid Al Futtaim, ICD, Brookfields, and Arup also all signed up to the World Green Building Council's net zero carbon building commitment. This requires them to take action to minimize energy use in existing buildings and maximize.
Questions by the COP presidency and the COP organizers. It is really a growing movement, and we're very happy to have this support from the COP presidency and the champions. We also have a support of a major stakeholder here, in the person of His Excellency Majid Al-Okail, Minister of Municipal and Rural Affairs and Housing of Saudi Arabia, who also wanted to send us a few words of introduction. What did I do?
يسرني أن أرحب بجميع المشاركين والحضور في أسبوع المناخ الذي تستضيفه المملكة العربية السعودية ويهدف إلى مناقشة التحديات المتعلقة بالتغيير المناخي لتقليل انبعاثاتها الكربونية بمقدار 278 مليون طن سنويا بحلول عام 2030 تماشيا مع اتفاق باريس للمناخ. وسيتحقق هذا الهدف عبر اتخاذ مجموعة من التدابير تتضمن تطوير مصادر الطاقة النظيفة والمتجددة للاستخدام المحلي والدولي وتنفيذ برامج لتداعيات تغيير المناخ ومقاومة كافة مظاهره التي تؤثر سلبا على الظروف المعيشية والفرص المتاحة لسكان المنطقة. وبناء على التزام المملكة بمعايير ومؤشرات الأداء الرئيسية لتحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة ومنها اتفاقية التغيير المناخي والحد من تلوث الهواء ومراعاة جودة الحياة في المدن، صدر مرسوم ملكي يقضي بقيادة في جميع أنحاء المملكة مستفيدة من التقنيات الرقمية والتحليلية وتقنية إنترنت الأشياء مثل أنظمة إدارة الفيضانات والتنبؤ بها وري الحدائق وجمع النفايات وغيرها، بهدف توفير الخدمات المعززة للازدهار الاقتصادي للمدينة وجودة الحياة والاستدامة البيئية وتعزيز الإشراف الحكومي الفعال. مصنعا جديدا بطاقة إنتاجية تتجاوز 150 ألف وحدة سكنية سنويا. ونؤكد هنا أن وزارة الشؤون البلدية والقروية والإسكان مستمرة في ربط المبادرات الأهلية بعملية التخطيط والتصميم والتنفيذ وإعادة تدوير النفايات وإدارة المرادم وتبني مبادئ الاقتصاد الدائري لتحقيق الاستدامة وتعزيز حماية البيئة وجودة الحياة وفق معايير سليمة تتجه بثبات نحو تحقيق الهدف المنشود، وهو الوصول إلى الحياد الصفري من انبعاثات الكربون بحلول عام 2060. ومع بالغ شكري نتطلع في وزارة الشؤون البلدية والقروية والإسكان إلى الاستماع لقيادات القطاعات من الخبراء المدعوين ومن الشركات المتخصصة لمعرفة الجديد المفيد من الخدمات ومنتجات الأنشاء الصديقة للبيئة. ونؤكد أننا على استعداد تام للتعاون معا للخروج بعمل مشترك ينعكس أثره إيجابا على تحسين المناخ.
I think we can be happy to have all these encouragements and informations on the global level by the climate champions and on the local situation in Saudi Arabia by His Excellency Minister. Now I'd like to open the floor to our distinguished panelists here, more to talk about the regional question and how the global roadmap that has been drafted for decarbonisation and resilience of the building sector can be used. So I'm very pleased to call here on stage Mrs. Rania Hedeya, who is head of UN Regional Office for Arab States, UN Habitat. Mrs. Neshen Surmeli Anak, Associate Director at Guidehouse and Program Manager for KULOP. Can you please take chair number 4? And Neshen, can you please take chair number 5? I'll call Rasmi Hamzi, Executive Director of the Jordan Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Fund. Alida Saleh, who is Senior Advisor for Climate Champions Build Environment and Head of Sustainability at JLL. And Mohamed Amer, Regional Director of Operations. Can you please go to Mohamed Amer, Regional Director of Operations, International Code Council for MENA region. Okay, so I will first address Rania and Neshen to ask you what role can the buildings and construction sector play in the MENA region, and how do you think the roadmap can accelerate the transformation of the sector? Please, maybe Rania, you can start with it?
Sure. Well, let me start by saying that there is a direct relationship between uncontrolled urbanization process and the negative effects of climate change. So, or the stresses, the climate-related stresses that we see. So whenever we have an urban process that is happening without good management and without good planning, we expect the negative results on climate change to affect more and more and more. And the MENA region is urbanizing quickly. It is one of the highly urbanizing regions. It's, you know, urbanization is happening all over the world, but we have regions that are highly urbanizing, and the MENA region is one of them. So it is very important to create awareness about this, to acknowledge this, and to start a dialogue to shift to good practices in that relates to the energy landscape and good practices in the sector. I just want to say that the construction sector and the building is not the effect. A decarbonization goes beyond construction. It starts with manufacturing. It starts with even earlier than that, transportation, construction, and also waste management. So we have to be cognitive of that. We have to ensure that when we talk about the commitment to decarbonization, we look at the whole spectrum and not only the construction sector. And we have to acknowledge very much that the more we work on the right policies and the more we try and have the right policies in place that help governments and that help societies meet their target, the commitments towards the decarbonization is really important. What's really important also about the roadmap is that it's a contextualized roadmap. It is based on the global roadmap that was developed before, but it looks at the different context in the regions and in the sub-regions, which is very important because these differences make a difference, make a lot of a difference when it comes to implementation and the right policies and the right laws and regulations that govern the sector. So contextualization and the way the roadmap was developed.
And the crucial role of policies, well, maybe we'll come back to this. So we continue with you, Nishan. What are your views in terms of the potential of the building sector to decarbonize the MENA region?
Right, yeah, thank you. So as you have very nicely put into the context of building sector in your speech, Mr. Moderator, while we produce construction and buildings, we consume a lot of energy. We also consume a lot of energy while we operate them. So there's a huge potential, especially considering the increasing construction rate in the MENA region. What is, of course, then important is to make sure that we have the right policy tools in place, and we also facilitate market to take action on these policy tools. So what the regional roadmap report provides is a very nice blueprint, which first starts to identify where each country stands, where they can also find their status in terms of their needs and potential barriers and challenges they can face. And they provide, and the report provides a very nice tool set which looks into policy measures, but also provides a menu of technical solutions which can be adapted for each country. In that sense, it's a comprehensive tool for each stakeholder group, for each decision maker to see where they can act upon decarbonizing the building sector. And because it also provides a view with regards to different levels of developed countries, they can also have the long-term vision. They can be, for example, one of the moderate developed countries, but they can already see what a more developed status, what actions they can take, and really start to pave the way for preparation. So in that sense, it's a comprehensive tool for all the stakeholders along the value chain, providing very useful set of tools.
Yeah, I thank you for that. Maybe I can step back a little by introducing what is the roadmap process, because when we launched at COP21, we launched the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction with UNEP. People asked, okay, there's a problem, how do you do that? How do you decarbonize? How do you make a resilient building sector? Considering that not one of the stakeholders can work without the others. The architects cannot work without the certification, without the products cannot work without legislations and regulation, and the regulators cannot work with the professionals, and the professional cannot work without the financiers, because obviously everybody needs everybody in this value chain. This is the question. So what we did first is to draft a global roadmap. And after that, when we had this global roadmap, everybody said, okay, it's very adapted to worldwide things, but it can be a little abstract for local. So we are in the process of regionalizing these roadmaps, and under the lead of the United Arab Emirates, we were able to develop, thanks to you all, a roadmap for the MENA, the Arab region, let's say. So just to explain where we are. Now it's time for implementation. Okay. So speaking about implementation, maybe you can give us, Rania, a hint on how the international organizations such as UN Habitat can help, can provide support. How can you help into implementing really on the ground this roadmap?
Let me start by saying that the collaboration and partnership between the different stakeholders is key and important. So working together, government, private sector, international community, UN is imperative because each plays its role. So, for example, the governments in the countries, in the different countries, they play the role of the regulators. They set policies. So when they set policies that entails good practices in the construction and building sector, that's their role to play, but also the partnership that they can have with big private sector entities that work in the sector is also important because these are the investors. They have big capital investments in the sector, and their practices is very important to be also aligned with the good practices in the landscape, in the construction landscape. The UN in general can play a very good supportive role in the implementation of the roadmap because of the technical expertise. We usually, the UN entities, especially in developing countries, we provide technical support to different governments to implement and to reach their international commitments, to abide, to respond to their international commitments. And depending on each mandate and expertise. UN Habitat, for example, our mandate is urban development, sustainable urbanization. So we do support governments in their pursuit of a sustainable urban process. And we ensure that their policies, national urban policies, housing strategies, construction strategies are all aligned with these good practices, principles, and so on. And we do have the technical expertise. We work in the sector, so we do have the technical expertise to do that. So we can not only play the role of promoting the roadmap, but facilitating the implementation of it. And actually through also our programs in the different country offices that we have. For example, we have a big program in Iraq on reconstruction, where we also support the government on a good, we call it Building Back Better, a green reconstruction process. In Yemen, in Sudan, we also work on providing systems, solar energy systems. In Lebanon also. So through our programs and using our technical expertise, using our role as facilitator between the donors community and the governments in the development countries, this can be
on buildings and with Morocco, and we strongly believe that multi-level cooperation is key, and you exactly demonstrate that by the very concrete projects that you are implementing on the ground. So I will now turn to Nasheen again because obviously the MENA region is a very growing region, building every place, lots of things, and there's a growing need for cooling. Cooling is one of the most important growing need in terms of energy in the world by now, and it's absolutely normal. But as we build and we cool, we're getting into sort of a vicious circle that we participate also to global warming. So what can we do to kind of, what can we do at this regard, Nasheen?
Yeah. Yeah, cooling indeed is a critical infrastructure, and as you also mentioned, with the growing construction sector, the demand itself, the demand for cooling is also growing. Not only in the hot regions like MENA, we also see a lot of extreme heat events in Europe, globally, so it's set to grow. But of course, it's important that we meet the demand without contributing to this vicious cycle. I think it's called a cooling paradox. With the practices, we try to avoid this temperature influence on human life. We also contribute to the increased temperatures. So, of course, it's necessary, and we have many tools in our service to look into. I think the transition to sustainable cooling can be handled under 4 main pillars. The first, of course, starts on more unseen side of the cooling sector. Those are potent synthetic gases which are usually more dangerous or 1,000 times more impactful on the climate than carbon dioxide. And there are a lot of alternatives to take place of synthetic refrigerants nowadays, using natural refrigerants like propane, carbon dioxide, water, which can provide 0 global warming potential compared to thousands that the synthetic refrigerants are using. So again, here, innovative approaches, making sure that the policy is in place, but also finance and technology is being comprehensively working together to provide this technology shift, and making sure that the knowledge transfer from Europe to MENA, from MENA to Europe is enabled is extremely important. And the fourth pillar would be to consider the end-of-life management of the equipment. When we talk about decarbonizing the cooling sector, it's also important to see what are we going to do with the equipment that is already in the building stock, and how we can actually safely dispose the refrigerants and the equipment itself and recycle the material. So based on these pillars, of course, as in all big sectors, it is important to have a solution, comprehensive solution, which takes into account the policy, the enforcement, the financial mechanisms, the stakeholders, and end user awareness into the spot. In Kula program, we are working in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey. And I'm really proud to say that we are seeing a lot of readiness, both on government side and on non-governmental actors, on private sector, to see what they can do, what part they can take in this acceleration and transition. One important policy tool is the National Cooling Action Plans, which comprehensively looks into the cooling sector and identifies what can be done in these countries. And it's starting to be a very important tool to see how the investment can be mobilized, how the actors can take action. So the technological solutions are there, the policy measures are there, so it's a matter of putting the right people, right decision makers around the same table.
Well, that's only to start then. So the interesting question, so thank you very much for that. I mean, the first envelope and passive cooling, that's what we advocate for. The interesting thing about buildings is that it's so, in the meantime, mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. I mean, talking for France, we have heat waves, and we have adapted the regulation to heat waves in the way that the new buildings now have a summer comfort regulation. We need to have a summer comfort envelope regulation. That's what we did. Not sufficient yet, but I mean it's going on. Because the building, at the moment you build it, you have the embedded carbon in it, but you also embed the energy consumption and the GHG emission for all its life, which is 100 years. It's not like exactly like a car. Of course, it's important to have electric cars. I'm more advocating for buildings, because a car within 5 years, I mean, you can change it. A building, you're here stuck with your building for 100 years. So each piece of building we are building now, and as I said, we're going to double the floor area from now to 2050. We build the surface of Paris each week, I think, in the world. So it's really huge. Is essential. And success relies upon the interdependent action of government, cities, businesses, and industry. What role do you think intergovernmental cooperation, such as the building's breakthrough, can play into shifting the narrative? And moreover, how do you think that non-party stakeholders can influence and support governments in setting ambitious measures and policies aligned with the priority?
You know, I want to bring that humanizing piece right back in. And then we talk about, well, why is it important to decarbonize our built environment? Is because it is one of the areas where we spend 90% of our time. And when we spend 90% of our time in a place that's ruining our earth, it's critically important for each one of us to start taking responsibility. It's not only up to governments to breakthrough talks about how can we work together to accelerate change. And it's in that coming together that we shape our policies, because we understand what we need. It comes together into how are we going to mobilize finance in order to accelerate our decarbonization pathway, and then what regulations are required. Now, I'll contextualize this in what we've done in the MENA region. In Dubai, what we had the opportunity to do, and we had a session on this morning on the blueprint for accelerating your net zero ambition, and we got some of the biggest developers in the UAE to come together for the first time ever to talk about how are we going to decarbonize the built environment, but what is stopping you, and what has been your opportunities for success. And what we've learned from that is that there are many blockers that are in our way. So of course, you know, our policies are a little bit further lagging. We need more financing. And of course, regulations are required. But what's also important is that in order to decarbonize, we need to understand what that pathway looks like. And it was the first time where we came together, and now we're going to put the blueprint, which is going to say, how do you get started on this ambition? And what does it require in order for you to take the next step? So I feel like the Buildings Breakthrough is an amazing opportunity for non-state actors to take a critical role, partner with governments, with your institutions, to come together. And I think notably, like some of the key priorities of the Buildings Breakthrough is harmonizing the definitions. You know, people have, one of the main things when we talked, actually we had a roundtable last week on with the finance group, and they said, we really cannot give financing when we don't know what the baseline is. We don't know if your buildings are developing at par with what good standards look like. And we need to understand what that means within the MENA region, because, for example, some rating systems don't apply to us. So we have to be careful of that. The other thing that the Buildings Breakthrough is doing is coordinating research and development of key technologies and tools, which is going to be critical to success. And of course, then we look at how are we training and building capacity for stakeholders in the value chain. And I think we underestimate the value of knowledge transfer, and I think we need to reprioritize how we look at that. So the role that the non-state actors take is in mitigations, is making sure that the measures you take to achieve the Paris agreements are utmost in our minds, and that we really need to have a systems transformation. We cannot talk in silos anymore. It is high time that we all come together and we look at it as what is that transformation that needs to happen collaboratively in order for the built environment to play one of the major roles to decarbonize our portfolio.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you here. It's good to have this support from the Climate Champion team. It's good to see that people finally understand what we're talking about. No, really, because it's, I mean, all the points that you're mentioning are very true, beginning by the human factor and sufficiency. It's cold here, isn't it?
It is cold.
Yeah, I'm just trying to move my fingers. No, really, I mean, this is a question, of course, and it's. I was in New York Climate Week. I'm exploding my carbon footprint for preparing the COP, but nevertheless, I was in New York, and New York was cold everywhere. The buses are cold. I mean, you can just get sick by traveling in New York and going to this place. Well, anyway, this is a human factor. As
It is. And I think
there are many human factors, but this one is one. And of course, it's key because and there's so many things in what you said that I cannot just I cannot summarize. But of course, I just want to come back on the financing question. There's no lack of finance, obviously. There's a lot of money to be invested into buildings anyway, because buildings has to be built. Even in slums, what do you think? People who live in slums, they don't pay for what they live? They pay, of course. Everybody pays for living. Everybody pays to have a house. Everybody, and it can be even more expensive to live in a slum than to live into a proper social housing. So it's, of course, there is money. The question is where does this money go? And exactly as you said, are the standards, are the certification needed enough, precise, or there is a lot to be done on what is a reasonably sustainable buildings. So this is the main point we're going to tackle through the buildings breakthrough, because of course it's a government's question. Just wanted to tell you that we are going to have in Paris in March 2024 the first ever global forum on buildings and climate, gathering ministers in charge of construction from all around the world. At this level, cement is not life cycle assessed. I cannot life cycle assess my building if the cement is not life cycle assessed. So the question is, how do you solidify the value chain? By solidifying all of the links and mutual trust. The question is also mutual trust. So this is what we're going to work on, and this is what we're very happy about your support. So I've been talking too much. I'll be turning to Rasmi then. Rasmi, about Jordan, okay? Yeah. You're in charge of this question. Jordan is a long-standing member of Global EBC from the beginning, and probably you're going to tell us how intergovernmental cooperation has been serving you until now, and how we can go further, and what strategies can be implemented to guarantee a comprehensive approach to actively engage non-party stakeholders also throughout every stage of the process.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I will not repeat a lot of thoughts that I've been sharing with the speakers. This is they did actually make that comprehensive introductions and answered a lot of questions and actually ideas about this important topic. However, today we are talking about really mainly how we are cooperating together to engage all of our communities in climate change issues. We started with this with renewable energy at the beginning at the main headline, and being very easy to implement renewable energy projects. Then it's different than when it comes to the energy efficiency. Even practically, energy efficiency, it comes first before renewable energy, because you need to save what you consume, and after that you can work to generate what things you need still to do regarding electricity, for example. In Jordan, we are actively cooperating with all the projects in MENA regions and umbrellas, and actually we are following a very clear vision regarding achieving clear KPIs with energy efficiency, and the building is the main important topic. This is why we launched NEAP, National Energy Efficiency Plan, and this is actually covering all the sector, including the households and the building. Next month we will launch the new version of our NEAP, of our National Energy Efficiency Plan. And we are actively cooperating with the Global EBC and all of the initiatives. And we've been member of launching the Heating and Cooling Initiative in Glasgow 2 years ago with the UK. And we are looking forward really to cooperate with all the main players in MENA region. I would like just to mention 3 main issues that is important here in addition of what we heard from the speakers. First of all, financing. I'm a money guy. I'm managing Jordan Renewable Energy Fund, and we are working with all stakeholders locally and internationally regarding the financial issue. And local banks actually playing a main role here. It's important here, first of all, we can't do that actually without taking a look of the capacities of the countries. We need everybody on board. We promise in Paris, the whole countries, we promise that we are not going to leave anybody behind. Until now, we are not committed with this. A lot of countries, they don't have the capacity to be on the same board of understanding, planning, designing, and implementing the projects related with energy efficiency and even renewable energy and managing the right project. So exchange experiences and knowledge is very, very important. R&D is very, very important. This is the main core issue that a lot of countries actually whom looking forward and expecting from them to cooperate, to be on the same page with us, they are not qualified to do that. They don't have plans for NEAP, for National Energy Efficiency Plan. They don't know how they are doing retrofitting the buildings. They don't know, they don't have the capacity or experiences or the money even financing and to convince them to implement retrofitting projects for a building. This is very important. And when you talk about with them about the net zero, they're going, what's that mean? What's the net zero? Shall I rebuild my home, my house? Shall the government revisit all the government building and start retrofitting project for them? How we can convince them that? How we can convince people, even the government, the decision maker, so that I will come to the second point, which is very, very important, which is the policies. All the countries, they should have a very clear policies regarding this issue, and it's been here to be included with their decision-making process and with their even projects as a KPI. This is very important. Without clear policies, we will not actually we are not going to ask, let's say, Minister of Finance to assign money to achieve that goal. We are not going to ask the government to set the plans and targets. So we need the very clear policies in order to ensure that we are working together on the same page. Third point, which is very, very important. Do we have a qualified contractor to implement what we are looking forward? This is a key issue. This is why exchange knowledge and experiences between the countries in the MENA region is a key. It's very important. In Glasgow, we've been talking with UK when we launched. I've been honored to launch that initiative with the Minister of Energy of UK and been talking about heating initiative. And after 1 year, and after what's happening of, that's heating in Europe, and they included also heating and cooling again. This is a very important issue. So the globe is really changing, and we need to ensure that really we are on the same page. The contractors, we face this in Jordan. We make our research. Actually, we start implementing a project for retrofitting for like a pilot project for hotels in Petra. I hope most of you heard about Petra. Petra, they have a lot of hotels, so we selected like 14 hotels to implement a project, retrofitting project and energy efficiency program for those hotels. And this has been the first pilot implemented in a comprehensive way. And at that time, the main question that we face from the owners, what you are doing for us? We know exactly what we need. We need electricity. So we need to install the PV systems. And this is all. And we actually spent more than 5 months to try to aware them about the importance of all the energy efficiency mitigations inside their building, about the insulation of their building. And we made all the technical study and energy audit and showing them the expected results from that. And then they joined the board. And we implemented a project with 5 million GOD just. And the saving of their annual energy bill being 60%. And then they cancel all the ideas regarding installing PV system. This is what we need to do, is to ensure that people, they are on board with us. In addition, one of the main problems that we faced at that time is the contracting. We didn't find the qualified contractors to implement the right activities and energy efficiency, including insulation for the roofs, for the walls, for everything.
Yeah,
this
very
is
true.
very important, and this is crucial, so that exchanging experiences and building the capacity of the sector is very important and crucial to get success in our plan.
Skills, absolutely, absolutely. Skills, it's not easy, though. Lots of people are used to work the ancient way, and we've lost the ancient way. That's the question. People have been living in this region for 1,000 years, and they lived in buildings. So how comes we cannot? There was no air conditioning at the moment. Anyway, so you said you made the point about this local question and the way that there are many solutions to all the questions you're asking, and definitely exchange and cooperation can be very useful on all these questions. As you said, policies are key because policies show the long-term vision in some way. They authorize all the stakeholders to adapt to a long-term vision. So building codes are, of course, important at this regard. So my question would get to you, will go to you. Because building codes, it's not only write them, decide them, it's also implement them. It's also a question of compliance. So what can you tell us at this regard to have these building codes drafted, adapted and implemented in the MENA region?
Thank you very much. And first of all, allow me to say that I'm truly honored to be here today amongst esteemed panelists and moderator, and thank you for all the attendees, and I would like to acknowledge the organizers for bringing all the stakeholders into one place and sharing a platform to advocate for and endorse such a pressing issue that everyone is facing. I resonate with everything that has been said, obviously, and I think the context, in the context of sustainability and resiliency, the parties involved, their efforts and contributions are underscored. At ICC, the International Code Council, as a buildings safety solutions provider from A to Z, we believe, as you said, very much in the importance of applying modern building codes, safety standards, best practices, and how this pushed the boundaries when it comes to facilitating the operational excellence of buildings around the world, from design, from construction, up until operation, the whole supply chain. And we're glad in the MENA, based in Dubai, to be working closely with regulatory authorities with what we call demand drivers, or the scheme owners, as has been said, the government or the regulators who issue the regulations, as well as the engagement levers, the consultants, the contractors, the manufacturers, standards development organizations as well, in order to encompass all these efforts and bring out to the market the best practices when it comes to sustainability and resiliency. Before I go into the initiative of ICC that is in line and supports the Buildings Breakthrough Initiative, I would like to say that in the MENA, definitely there are challenges that I'm going to come to, but there has been also initiatives endorsed and taken, including championing the Arabs League roadmap by UAE, and UAE has announced earlier its strategic initiatives for net zero by 2050. The fact that COP was hosted in this region and going to be hosted again also in this region makes 2022 ends on a high note, with a lot of the countries in the MENA aligning their national priorities with the ESG guidelines. And just a quick examples on what we're seeing in the MENA with regards to regulations, energy efficiency regulations, which taps on aspects related to insulation, lighting, HVAC systems, the total or overall operations or the sustainable operations of buildings. We have the renewable energy integration, which has been mentioned. On a macro level, many countries in the MENA, if not all, have defined their 2030 strategies for sustainability even before COVID. I mean, COVID accelerated the mission and vision. But on a micro level also, if you go one level down, you find developers advocating for installation of solar panels on housing, which is being probably pushed back because of, unfortunately, lack of interest, as what has been said. Even if the cost is less, but there's a lack of interest. We see countries adopting green hydrogen, countries going for carbon capture technology, for more sustainable initiatives. So that's on the energy efficiency side, that's on the renewable energy integration, and then on the green certification, or the rating systems that are also being put to incentivize the stakeholders, like the developers or the facility managers, on why it's important to adopt such strategies from an economic and from a political perspective as well. Now, as I was talking about the challenges, obviously there are challenges. Let me start with the enforcement level. The enforcement, and this is where our initiative supporting the Buildings Breakthrough come into the picture. ICC is rolling out or has announced the initiatives related to capacity building for resilient and sustainable buildings. Having building codes on its own is not enough. The whole regulatory system or regulatory infrastructure of buildings is connected items of gears connected together from building codes that has to be enforced, implemented, mandated on the right level. You have trainings, personal certification, you have investing in technical expertise, investing in infrastructure, the testing, inspection, and certification of building materials being installed at site. So these all have to work in harmony to drive the policy making and highlight the importance of a strong regulatory framework. This is also listed in our studies that only 26% of the countries have adopted mandatory energy building codes, which is falling behind. So this is one aspect, the enforcement. The finance that you have mentioned, whether it's to incentivize the stakeholders to adopt and adapt to more sustainable initiatives, but also to find the finance to provide the budget for financing the projects to install sustainable and innovative building materials to reduce the cost and decarbonize the building sector, as well as the finance part is basically we can overcome it by the public-private partnerships that pushes the limits and overcome these silos. But there's a very important aspect going back to the fact of uninterest or the lack of interest, is that the sustainability is not a snapshot. It's a way of living. If you ask people 10, 20 years ago, what do you think of climate change? They would probably say, we're not feeling it. So it's not about feeling it, it's about facts, it's about data-driven decision making. And if you ask them now, they would say, actually, we do feel it. So we have to really rely on the collaboration from all the stakeholders, rely on raising awareness. Industry talks like this, educational sessions, bringing the stakeholders together in one room is the key to overcome those silos and turn up the volume on how important this is. I'm going to give you the chance to please comment. Yes.
Yeah, very rich also, and I'd like to keep a little time to give to ask for questions before to close the session. So thank you very much for all that. Is there a microphone, or are there any questions from the floor before to conclude? Of course, there's so many rich I'm sorry, I just want to say that we will be staying after the session if someone wants to discuss more in detail. And I can't see if there's questions. I'm not that used to those kind of stages here. Like, seems I'm in a rock and roll concert. Okay, I see no hands raised. Are they?
No.
No. Okay, so sorry, you want to say something?
Yeah. I've been just, if I can leave for another discussion.
Yes, just so. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for. It's the moment to thank all of you and to say that really this has been a very productive panel. I think very interesting. Lots of things are still to be said. We all hope to have you on the buildings breakthrough session at COP, and there will be several sessions on buildings. So we definitely, COP28, as I said, is a COP with a huge buy-in for the buildings questions. Yep. So very happy. And I will now give the floor, maybe we can just leave the stage to give the floor to Tarek Al-Khouri, who is Regional Coordinator for Climate Change at the United Nations Environment Programme. So we're going to get down and let Tarek give his final remarks. Thank you all.
Thank you. I would like first to start by thanking all the participants for their active and great participation and for highlighting the importance of the building sector and in the climate action work. Thank you. The building and construction sector is a high impact sector for UNEP. It's important to address the triple planetary crisis in climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Also, this sector is a key for national economics and GDP development. As mentioned by the panelists, it's also a vulnerable sector to climate change impact. If I want to link what has been said with the climate action work, we are indeed off track to keep the Paris Agreement goal alive. So, as we heard at the beginning, 21% of the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from the building sector. So UNEP has been active in the building and construction sector for almost 15 years, and it's proud to host the Secretariat of the Global Alliance for Building and Construction, which was founded at COP21 to facilitate a dynamic global dialogue on the building sector and its initial role in accelerating our world transition to net zero. The global ABC is a key role in fostering a common vision and language for the sectors. We are also proud to see that the roadmap that mentioned by the panelists that started to be developed in other regions, and now the recent one is being done for the Arab state, has been cascaded at the national level in over 30 countries. We would like to thank the UAE, but also the Guidehouse and UN Habitat for their leadership in developing their regional roadmap for building and construction in the Arab region. We call on all the countries in the region to use this roadmap to define their national decarbonisation and resilience strategy for building and construction sector. Sincere thanks to the Ministry of National Territory Planning, Land Planning, Housing and City Policy of the Kingdom of Morocco and the Ministry of Ecological Transition and Territorial Cohesion of France for their leadership and for leading the building breakthrough under the umbrella of the global ABC. Deep collaboration is critical to transforming this sector, and we call on all countries to rally behind the common vision of the building breakthrough. Net zero emission and resilient building are the new normal by 2030. To date, 25 countries have joined the Building Breakthrough and 15 initiatives have announced their support. The Building Breakthrough will be launched at COP28, and we are counting on you to keep up the momentum in the run-up to COP28 and write up the first of its kind global forum on building and climate that UNEP is proud to co-organize with the government of France in March 2024. This groundbreaking event will bring together a wide range of stakeholders from the building and construction value chain to discuss innovative solutions and to raise ambition for decarbonizing this sector and for being to work on resilience building as well. We call on all countries to join the Building Breakthrough and participate in the Global Forum on Building and Climate. And we would like to thank again all the participants for their engagement. We look forward to continuing working with you to transform the building and construction sector at the pace and scale needed. Thank you.